All right, thank you for everyone for joining us today. We are participants in the Human MOOC course on how to humanize your online instruction. If you wouldn't mind, let's all go through and introduce ourselves. Helen, why don't we start with you?
Helen.
Did I lose Helen?
Sorry,
She's not hearing.
Okay.
I'm not hearing.
Okay. I'll start.
Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Maha. I'm a PhD student at George Mason University. I'm also one of the facilitators / learners in the Human MOOC, so I'm also learning as I go along in the course. That's me.
All right. Thank you. Autumn, how about you?
Hey everybody, I'm Autumn Keynes, and I'm the Associate Director of Academic Technology at Capital University in Columbus, Ohio, and I just finished a master's degree in Educational Technology from The Ohio State University. I've been in Human MOOC since week 0. I haven't been paying a lot of attention to the LMS, and I'm really far behind. I'm not going to get a badge, but I like being social with the folks that are in the group, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Great. Laura, how about you?
I teach online courses for the University of Oklahoma, but I live in North Carolina, so I value virtual tools very much. They let me connect with my students, and I'm here at Human MOOC to learn about new tools and meet new people.
Excellent. Helen, can you hear us now?
I'm good.
Oh, great.
Good to go. Thanks for moving on down the line. This is my second go-round with Human MOOC, and it's funny you mentioned the badges, but the first time round I was all about the badges, and this time I haven't even looked at them. And again, I'm feeling like I'm disconnected, but I am really still connected to the Human MOOC, so I'm really glad to be here.
Excellent. Thank you. And I'm Amy Ostrom. I'm an instructional technologist for distance education at the College of Charleston in Charleston, South Carolina. This is my first time with Human MOOC, and I am really enjoying the experience, especially following the hashtag and meeting new people through Twitter. Actually, everybody that's on this Hangout I met through the hashtag. We connected some way on Twitter, so this has been really an interesting experience for me to help keep engaged. So thank you all. To start off with, we wanted to talk a little bit about this dual pathway design, the stream versus the garden. And I think that, Laura, you had a conversation with one of the facilitators about this on Twitter. Do you want to kick us off?
Right. I had a breakthrough, I guess you could say, the other day, because I'd seen these stream and garden metaphors, and I knew we had a choice, and I'd been trying really hard to use the canvas, and can talk about that separately, but the canvas really wasn't working for me, and I was trying hard to figure out what this stream thing means, like how the metaphor works and where it comes from. And I had thought, and maybe others thought this too, that it came from that really cool article by Mike Caulfield about the stream and the garden, a technopastoral. And so I went back and read Mike's thing again. I thought, wow, it's so cool, I'd really liked it. But it didn't fit really with the choice we're being presented with in terms of canvas or outside. And so I ended up having a back and forth with Matt Crossland at Twitter, and I found out that that's not really how they're using Streaming Garden. So that helped me a lot. That, as I understand it now, maybe Maha can help me out, stream really means syllabus here. And that to be in the stream means to follow the syllabus. And it's not a stream in the way that Mike talks about it, like a personal stream, user-centered, learner-centered. Instead, it's like a traditional kind of syllabus, due dates, schedule of activities, and the garden is not that. But it's great that Maha is here, so maybe she can chime in and sort of explain how that works, because Matt said that they started from Mike's piece, but then they kind of morphed it and it changed, and now it's clearly really different. So maybe Maha can give us some feedback about how that works.
Yeah, so what we tried to do is just take that metaphor and just try to fit it within our own context of the Human MOOC. So the stream basically is, it's more structured. It's like having a checklist to pick off what you need to do, and then you earn badges or if you don't want. I mean, if you follow the stream, you're going to earn the badge in the end. It's more structured. Now the garden is where you come in. That's where the choice learner, more personalized learning, use your own tools. You want to, go out, blogs, and that's where the blog hub comes in, the Twitter chats, and all that. You don't have to do that when you're following the stream. So that's how it is within our own context, and it was explained to the syllabus that way. Maybe because you already had an idea of that metaphor before joining, so you had already preconceived ideas of what we mean by it. So that's what we try to do with the human mooc.
Well, I remember in the beginning that, I forget where it was, maybe it was in the LMS, maybe it was on the humanmooc.com website, but they actually linked to the article. They said, we started with this as an idea, and here's a link to Mike's article on this. So, yeah, I think that might have, and I think it's a cool adaptation of the idea, to tell you the truth, and I don't think that, I think it's interesting that there's these ideas floating around out there in the world, right? And it's kind of like the first person who gets to them sort of claims them, but I don't think that ownership is necessarily, for real. I think the rest of us can kind of morph and play with those ideas and try to figure out how they fit into our lives. So the thing that I'm thinking about and that I wonder is the way that Human MOOC is using those metaphors. Is it possible to get a reward if you're in the garden? Because it seems to me that you can't get a badge if you're in the garden. You've got to go back to the stream to get the reward. Or is the reward more intrinsic? Is it just the benefit of? I mean, gosh, there's so many of you guys. Amy, I met you yesterday. Laura, this is, I think, I don't know. I feel like maybe we've been in one other kind of.
Must have been, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, this is the first time I'm meeting a lot of you guys. So I mean, is maybe increasing my PLN, is that my reward if I'm working in the garden? Is it more of an intrinsic, kind of natural type of thing that's being created? I'm just going to stop talking now.
I think it kind of goes hand in hand, to be honest with you, because when you're in a MOOC type of situation, you almost have to be intrinsically motivated in order to be able to stay on task and on target as well. So,
okay, yeah.
Somebody's having to phone a friend. But personally, also, I'm a badge hoarder, and I think I actually tweeted that out yesterday when I was looking for it. It's like, okay, I did all of my things in the stream. Where's my badge? But because I like that little bit of a spark and the recognition in order to be able to keep the intrinsic motivation going, which seems a little counterintuitive. But if you're working in both the stream and the garden, like most of us tend to do, you need that little bit of structure, that little bit of extrinsic motivation in order to keep you focused to continue on your own path as well, and to kind of guide where you want your path to go with this learning experience. Humanizing your online course is a huge realm that you could study, and so focusing just on instructor presence or focusing just on social presence for that time frame helps to kind of steer your own path. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I had a funny experience because I'm normally an intrinsic motivation kind of person, really don't like grades. I've never gotten a badge, but I'm doing this Twitter boot camp for my school in January, and I'd also love to share that with the Human MOOC people. Of course, we're all on Twitter, but anyway, if you know someone who is interested in getting on Twitter, I put up a bunch of materials, and the guys from the conference at my school contacted me, and they said they wanted to be part of the gamification of the conference that we're doing, where they're going to get points for doing things in my Twitter boot camp. And like part of me thought, oh no, I don't do that. I don't do extrinsic motivation, points, gamification. Oh my gosh. But then I realized, just like Amy was saying, if this helps some people get on board, if it helps them focus, if it's a structure that they can relate to or connect to, and especially in this case, if it's a structure that integrates the weird stuff I'm doing with what would be the stream, I guess, to borrow that metaphor again. The conference has a stream. It's got these sessions that you go to, and you get points for going to the sessions. Well, I've got this weird garden thing that happens before the conference. It's not as structured, but if they want to give points for that, I guess, sure, why not? That's a new thing for me, but I'm curious to be part of that experiment.
Well, and since we're talking about metaphors, my background is actually in special education. So I worked a lot with students with behavioral and emotional disorders primarily, as well as students with learning disabilities. And so this concept of motivation, reward, punishment, all of that is kind of all meshed in together with this. And so speaking about extrinsic to intrinsic, you really have to start, especially if you have somebody who maybe has been in this position for quite some time. You know, we talked yesterday in the Hangout about people that don't really have any social presence is the same as having no credit. And so how do you get started with that? A lot of that is starting with that extrinsic value until you can get it to move to an intrinsic area. And that was kind of the theory behind working a lot with students with behavioral disorders, is figuring out what is going to be motivating so then you can turn it inside. And I think it's kind of the same concept here. If you don't really know why you should humanize your online course or what is even possible out there, you need somebody to kind of come along and say, okay, here's where you can start, and then you can start to see your own ideas and make your own connections.
And that's a great point for me, because there are plenty of my colleagues who have no idea why they should use Twitter, and I would love for them to just take a look and see the stream of Twitter stuff I share with my classes, because I think if they could just look and see, they'd realize it does have a value. And if the gamification brings them in to take a look, that's fine with me. So.
Yeah, I like that analogy, that it's the hook that you catch them with. And for the human MOOC, for me, the badges was the hook to keep me going. And this year, it's intrinsic. It's not the necessary tool to keep me motivated to go.
And see, I feel like I'm a weirdo because, like, I don't know, I guess it's always kind of been intrinsic for me. Like, the badge was never really that. I mean, I was excited about the badge at first. I'm thinking back to other MOOCs and other things that I've done. Like, I think I completed Future Ed, and I completed EDC MOOC, the one out of University of Edinburgh. You guys know the one I'm talking about? They're both Coursera MOOCs, and I got the certificate for them. And, you know, I mean, it was kind of fun the first time, I guess, but now I'm sort of, you know, picking and choosing. So I guess I'm not that far out. But Matt Crossland wanted me to know, he just tweeted at me that you can get a badge in the garden, but you have to submit through the artifact through Canvas. So I just want to put that out there. If anybody else is playing in the garden, you can get the badge. You just got to go back to the LMS and put in your artifact. So sorry, just so that folks know that if you are playing in the garden, it is still available to you.
Well, and you know, this concept of the hook that we talked about, you know, the whole point about motivation is longevity as well. It's not just hooking them in, but it's keeping them in too. So if you don't get hooked into the conversation, like if I hadn't, you know, found you guys through Human MOOC and some of the other people that are following the hashtag, I don't know what my motivation level would have been personally. Yeah, professionally, I know why I wanted to do this, but personally, to get as invested as I have, I'm not sure it would have been the same thing, you know. So we, not to go back to my students, but we used to have this metaphor where we would say, when you are first learning a behavior, that hook kind of a concept, it's kind of like when you're at a car at a red light. You have to put your foot all the way down on the gas pedal to be able to get up to 60 miles an hour. It takes a lot of pressure, a lot of pushing, a lot of outside motivation. But once you get to 60 miles an hour, you don't keep your foot on the gas. You kind of ease back on it. You ease out of the motivation. You ease out of extrinsic because there's already gas in the tank for the combustion to keep going. So what kind of things do you think you're seeing now in the Human MOOC that are maintaining that kind of motivation?
Well, for me, I mean, in terms of why I'm here, it's exactly because of this, the ability to have conversations like this and connect with other people. And so that, to go back to the question about Canvas and the stream, that's why I was feeling frustrated in there, and maybe you all have some hints for what I can do. The intrinsic value for me here is connecting with other people, and when you're inside Canvas, it's hard to see what other people are doing. Like, I was thinking that there was going to be a stream on the profile pages, and I asked Matt about this, and he wasn't sure about the answer because I wasn't sure if they turned that off inside Canvas as part of their course design or not. But the kind of thing I'm looking for in an LMS that would motivate me is what we have at Twitter, where when you connect with somebody, just even through sharing a hashtag, you can then connect to their stream. You can find out more about them. You can see what they do. And I mean, it's just so cool because you don't know what you're going to find, right? You click on somebody's avatar at Twitter. It's like, are they going to be sharing pictures, videos, news? What are they? Who are they? You know, and that's that presence thing. And I don't make a big distinction between instructor presence and student presence. It's all presence. It's all important. And I really like the way people can construct their own presence at Twitter. And it's hard to construct a presence inside Canvas. So it's like we're in there talking about presence, but constructing your presence inside Canvas, I can't figure out how to do it. It's just hard.
I think that goes. Am I echoing?
A little bit.
Okay, I got my headphones. Maybe I could just leave. Okay, let me try this. Okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I think the idea of garden and stream is more about the process. How you prefer to learn, not necessarily about the artifacts that you need to do or what steps you need. So in the Human MOOC, we have some objectives and we have activities. And then the stream and the garden, or this is the way I understand it, is about how you want to reach those. So you choose your path, how to reach it. It's not different activities that you do. It's different way of reaching those objectives. And so again, I'm glad that Matt said I got distracted by the phone call, but yes, in garden you can also earn badges because it's not really, the difference is not really about the badge or the activity or the objective. It's about how you get there.
Is anybody else using kind of a dual pathway format in their courses that they're teaching? Helen, I see you nodding your head.
Let me turn my mic back on. Yes, actually, the online course that I'm starting up in January with a group of students, it's a brand new course for the Faculty of Ed, and I've designed it with and I've done it almost as the LMS as a center core, the inner layer, and then the blog or website as the outer layer, and then the third layer is all of the extrinsic, like YouTube and Twitter and Digo and Symbaloo and all the things that I want them to play with. So then I've got an image of the inner layer with arrows going outward, but not inward. So you can go start in the inner layer, step to the outer layer, and then go further. So the third layer, you can go back and forth from the core, like the website that I've warehoused everything, and it's bigger than the LMS. So I've limited what's in the LMS in terms of content, but I've built in some of the essential links, and then the content will be the discussion forums and the assignment drop boxes, and a little bit of the content, but most of the content resides on the website itself. So I'm interested to see how this is going to work for me, because this is my first go at online, or totally online. I've done face-to-face with this whole online external piece and the LMS internal piece, but within a face-to-face context. So, yeah, I'm fluidly making them go through all sorts of different layers. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
We do something similar in a class that I facilitate for faculty who want to teach online for the first time. It's actually an online training DE readiness kind of a course.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh yes, thank you. And
that DE was awesome.
That video was amazing. I was so jealous. See, I've got my green screen behind me because I've been doing green screening this week.
Well, hey, anytime you want to talk about some of the green screen magic, I'm your girl. So. We had a lot of fun putting that together. That was actually, the Toto in there was actually her dog that she likes to try to bring to campus. So it's fun. But we have almost a microcosm of that as well. Inside of the modules and inside of the content, we have a dual pathway depending on how you learn. And so we have some that are visual-based instructions, we have auditory-enhanced instructions, we have this, that, and the other. So as well as having those layers that lead to the outside, how deep do you want to go kind of a thing. And so instead of it being do you want to take this path or this path to get there? It's more of a choose your own adventure type of a novel. We're all going to end up at the same place, sort of, depending on your level, because when you have a lot of faculty coming together, their experiences and their ability in the classroom vary so differently. So you might have one person who ends up on the top of their mountain, but their mountain is here and another person's mountain is here, but we're all on the top wherever we needed to be. So it's an interesting concept to try to put in as you differentiate your instruction with the dual pathways for learning.
So I wanted to jump in really quick because I wanted to ask advice from you guys or anybody that's listening on Twitter. We've got RS and Paul Jinks seem to be communicating with us on Twitter just a tiny bit here. And I'm curious, so I have this idea of a plan that I'm thinking about teaching in the future. It's a first-year seminar course focusing on digital citizenship for students. And so one of the things I'm thinking about is doing it hybrid, and so I don't know if hybrid really is dual layer, but I'd like to create it in a way so that way I'm almost weaning students off of the face-to-face experience. So we'd front load it where there's a lot of face-to-face experience, but then as we go along, you're going to get more and more online until, like, at the end, you're doing most of the work completely online. And I'm curious if anybody has any experience in that kind of design. Do you even consider that dual layer, or is that just hybrid? Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think that sounds awesome, Autumn. I teach fully online. I have for a long time, and I talk to people who teach hybrid, and that can be really hard because you're basically doing two very different things at once. And I have not heard about anybody doing a kind of shift like that so that you get a face-to-face at the beginning, but students are experiencing a truly, fully online experience at the end of the semester. I think that sounds fantastic, and I would love to hear how that goes. So that I could spread the news at my school, because there are a lot of people who teach hybrid at my school, very few people who teach fully online who are really happy about it. Some people teach fully online and they seem very frustrated. But the hybrid has its own frustrations too, so that sounds like a really cool way to give people a whole range of experiences. That sounds neat.
We have, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Amy.
We have learning communities here for our freshman seminars. Are you guys familiar with the concept where you have the two separate departments that work together as one? So, and we have one that is a sociology of food course that is mixed with a nutrition course. The sociology of food is completely face-to-face. The nutrition course is completely online. It's the same group of 25 students. And so what they have actually found with that, and it's been really interesting to watch, is that the sociology of food class, the face-to-face version, is deathly quiet. They will not speak. They don't even participate. There's this one where they do an activity where you have to spit in a cup and then you drink it back. Nothing, you know? And I know, it just kind of freaks me out too. But, and the nutrition course that's fully online, they never stop. Yeah. They are always posting. They're always talking. Yeah. And so it'll be interesting to see, since you're using the same group with the same instructor in the different modalities, to see how the students respond and react and form those connections between themselves and the content online to see how it works out. I'd be interested to see how it works.
And it's interesting that you brought that kind of idea forward, because that's the same thing that I tend to do in my face-to-face class, is do the back channel stuff, do the talk and text kind of activities, and force them into talking to people that they haven't talked to, and I do it in the face-to-face in the way I you know, group the tables or whatever, and you know, different randomizers that I do as they come in the door, but I also do it in that back channel stuff so that they really do get a sense of who each other are, both from the face-to-face contact and from the, you know, the digital contact.
And what you said there, Helen, acknowledges something that a lot of people don't talk about. It takes work to get people to know each other in person too. I mean, if you're going to run a classroom, I love that you do randomizers for your classroom too. I use randomizers online so that people meet each other, and you really need it in the classroom for exactly the same reason. If you want everybody in a class with, like my classes had 40, 50 students in them when I taught in the classroom, they don't all get to know each other unless you really work at it and create those opportunities.
Yeah, they all have their favorite table and their favorite spot in the classroom to sit, unless you structure it differently.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same in the online stuff.
Right, everybody kind of gets a little comfortable with where they need to be, and it's part of our jobs to kind of help foster the want or the need or even just the opportunity for students to get out of that comfort zone a little bit, but still have a chance to shine on their own as well. They have such varying degrees of experience, of life experience and things like that. Giving them a chance to step outside of that comfort zone but still be in a safe space is especially beneficial in the online environment, where you have some students that love the anonymity that they feel of being online. Even though their name is attached to it, there's still this mask that they have, whereas others see it as I'm alone and I'm out here by myself, being able to drag them in to the conversation as well.
If I can just say about that comfort zone thing, the best thing I've done for my classes in years was an experiment I did this past semester that I'm going to keep building on, where I made growth mindset an explicit part of the class and had students explore growth mindset and learn about it. And that idea of getting out of the comfort zone is such a good, positive, strong part of growth mindset. And they really embrace that, because terms like growth mindset, comfort zone, they could really grasp that and apply that to every single aspect of not just what they were doing in my classes, but in their other classes too. It was, I feel kind of like a doofus for not having introduced that way earlier, because I had it in my mind, obviously, and I designed the class with growth mindset, but I had never made it explicit with the students.
And I frequently talk about being comfortable on the shifting sands of technology.
Ooh,
because
great.
Whatever they're doing today will shift and change and morph into something different as they shift and morph their skills and abilities, and become more comfortable with something. And I always kind of push them into something that's fairly easy, and then give them something that might be a little more challenging. Even something simple like, you know, capturing video. They have to do a 30-second clip with Animoto as a lead up to producing a 5-minute digital story using Movie Maker and iMovie and green screen and you know, embedding all kinds of different technologies into it. So it's little steps to become more comfortable with stuff. So, and that's part of the teaching. You have to plan it that way. So you have to scaffold and layer it. So, and maybe that's why we're comfortable in the stream.
Well, that's what's got me confused, because some of the aspects of what's being called instructivism in the class are really alien to me. They seem kind of stifling of what students do, but at the same time, I definitely believe in what Helen's talking about in terms of scaffolding and constructing experiences for the students to then explore with a sense of independence, but you're there to help them and to be a guide. I don't know if that's instructivism anymore or not. I'm confused, so I need to keep learning about this.
Well, guys, we only have a couple of minutes left in our time together. This has really flown by. Thank you all for such great contributions. Before we head out, one of the things that we mentioned in the introductions was on technology tools, and Helen, you just mentioned the shifting sands of technology. That's one of the things that I love about teaching online, and what I love about my job is that there's always something new to learn. I think I told Autumn yesterday, if I'm not learning something new, I get bored, and then that's when bad things happen. So why don't we go through and kind of talk about some of the tools that you're using to help create instructor presence in your classes, as it relates to activities or things that you are doing. So not just the tool itself, but how are you using that tool, because you really can't separate the tool from the pedagogy behind it.
Well, the big development for me has been learning more and more about Twitter and finding ways to use that. Not necessarily my students using Twitter, but showing them that that's a gateway to the internet that they might not have known about. So a couple years ago, I was really using Pinterest a lot to do that, and now I'm using Twitter, and so it's good getting to know you all at Twitter, and I'd love to hear your Twitter tips later on.
So this isn't in my class, but I'll reflect on a conversation that I just had with an instructor earlier today, and she does some test review with her students, in a synchronous session, and it's an option. It's a completely online class. It's an option where they can get on Adobe Connect. That's the the tool we have here at the university, and they can choose to come in and basically listen to a lecture from her synchronously about the test and the review of the test. But at the same time, she was kind of telling me that she sort of missed the thing she misses from face-to-face is kind of the conversation bit, and so that made me think about kind of the limitation that Google Hangout gives you because you can only have 10 people in. I think it really allows you to make it more conversational just because it limits you on how many people come in at a time, and I think it's a really interesting kind of way that a limitation on a technology can actually enable a new kind of way of looking at things.
I'll jump in with the example that I've just had in the last couple of weeks. And this is a face-to-face group. It was a small group, and I couldn't have done it with a larger group. But two of the students said they were going to be away that day, so I set up a Google Hangout so that we actually learned in the face-to-face class how to, they say none of the students had any experience with Google Hangout. Mm-hmm. So in the classroom, I had around it was like a seminar table, all of the students getting into the Hangout. The two that weren't in class were in the Hangout. And oh my God, the laughter. It's like having this experience, but having the group right there with you, and they were putting on, the hats and the glasses and the and still getting that experience with having that sense of everybody had to talk at least once. Everybody had to put on their lower thirds so that we knew who it was. And that's that, digital accountability. I said, no, we're not recording, and we didn't record the session, but they had that almost full experience of what it was like to be in a Hangout. And I couldn't. That experience will stick with me in terms of using a tool that is meant for distance, but using it in a face-to-face setting. So that they would learn, we debriefed and talked about it afterwards. So it was kind of neat that way.
Yeah.
Well, we've used Google Hangouts for something similar. Like I said, my students are faculty, so we have a graduation at the end of the course, which is typically face-to-face. But sometimes, we have faculty members that are taking the course from all over the country, and so we will actually put them on an iPad and designate somebody to move them around. And so they're virtually present, but they're still there, and they can interact and talk to them. Or, we'll have a table where you can go and talk to, and so we'll rotate around so you can get to talk to everybody. But something else, a tool that we hadn't really talked about is Selly. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that one. It's a two-way communication system that your students can use. So even if they don't have access to a mobile device, they can text in and they can receive text back. So it's actually kind of a closed space with that, but nobody gets anybody else's phone number either. So you are still protecting that identity. So they can talk back and forth to each other, or they can make their own cells. So if you had study groups that form, kind of like we did a participant hangout here, they can form study cells inside there, but as the instructor, you can also still kind of see what's going on and kind of go in and out. So yes, it's cel.ly, I believe, is the address. So that one's a really good one in terms of being able to have the flow of conversation continue to go around. And we've had really good luck with that. Especially if a student needs help in the middle of the night, they'll use Selly, and so because you can set your notification on that, so you're not accidentally texting somebody at 3 a.m. and waking them up. So it's really interesting if you want to check that one out. So I think that's about all the time that we have today, but this was a lot of fun, and if you guys would be interested in doing another one as we keep going through Human MOOC, I would love to participate.
We're going to have to call this Woman MOOC unless we get a guy to come here. That's
right. Step up, men. So, all right, thank you guys very much. And once the broadcast is completed, then I will tweet out the link to the YouTube site. That way anybody who missed it, if they wanted to view. And let's keep the conversation going. Thank you guys so much.
That's great. Thank you.